Hey everyone, my name is Pedro Romero and I'm a solution consultant here at ServiceNow. And today it is my pleasure to introduce a new feature coming out with our Vancouver release surrounding how we can help your organization manage license consumption across different entities. So think about your regions, your companies, your cost centers, departments, and even ways to optimize how we're identifying things as removal candidates through our reclamation rules. So a lot of optimization here. Before we dig in, we do have a safe harbor notice as we might have some forward-looking statements, so feel free to pause this if you need to. So in Utah, we introduced consumption rules as a way to allow multiple entities to automatically consume licenses from an entitlement. Because before Utah, that was restricted to whatever the group in the group field was within the entitlement record. So, for example, if the entitlement had a group of HR filled out, then consumption of the license would only take place if a software installation was found and tied to the HR department. Otherwise, any other group, it wouldn't necessarily count as consumed. So we introduced consumption rules to again allow those different entities to consume against an entitlement. And then with Vancouver, we're now adding ways to also designate the quantity of licenses to reserve for each entity. That way, when paired with our consumption rules, this is going to significantly reduce the effort it takes to manage consumption across different entities. And we've also made it easier to include all the children entities for a given consumption rule, right? So to walk through this, let's say, for example, we bought 100 licenses for a specific software, but we wanted to reserve 30 of those for IT. Well, now we've improved how we can reserve those specific license pools and have that still be respected by our license consumption logic. And this will probably be helpful to see in a demo. So we're going to jump in and see it in action. But before that, we do want to call out that we've also made changes to our reclamation rules. So a lot of benefit to our consumption rules, and the same goes to our reclamation rules. So in this case, what we've done is we've provided a lot more flexibility in designing reclamation rules so that the system can better identify what is a removal candidate. Again, giving you more flexibility. For example, we'll see it here in the demo, but now we can have essentially a filter to designate what specific conditions do we want to also consider when it comes to identifying or tagging something as a removal candidate, something that you didn't necessarily have the option for before. So things like this are meant to give you a much easier time to treat your software in different editions of software uniquely, case by case, for those different thresholds, for those different reasonings that you want to tag things as removal candidates. With that all being said, let's jump in the demo and see both of these in action. And we're going to start off with our consumption rules. So here, as you can see, we have 4 consumption rules for different styles of entities. But here from a cost center perspective, we have an entity for our engineering cost center and one for our IT cost center. And so what we do with this information is that if we go to an entitlement, for example, here, Adobe Systems Acrobat DC Professional, this is right now a subscription license that we've purchased 100 rights to. Well, now we'll have this new view right here for the entitlement consumption rules that's telling us how many licenses do we want to allocate to these given cost centers. So out of 100 licenses, we want 30 of those to be designated for IT and 30 of those to be designated for engineering. And now when the system's going through and reconciling your compliance position in license consumption, it's going to be honoring what we have listed here. In addition to this, we did include a checkbox down here below for unrestricted consumption. So if you have this checked, what this is saying is we will have 30 licenses allocated to IT, 30 allocated to engineering, and anything else can be consumed by whatever entity. If I were to uncheck that box, then that's going to say these licenses can only be consumed by the consumption rules designated under this tab. So again, we're providing you also the flexibility to restrict that or unrestrict that from a consumption point of view. So now that we've gone in and we've created the consumption rules and we've tied license pools to these, when the system's going and doing reconciliation, here for example, it's telling us for DC Professional, we own 100 licenses, but we require 3 of them based on what it's reconciled. It's going to let us know these are the 3 different licenses that are required. Here's the departments that are tied to them. And from a consumption rule point of view, for engineering, we're not currently utilizing any of the 30 pool that we designated, but for IT, we are designating one of the rights used from our pool based on, again, the cost center for the subscription. So again, that's how we're helping effectively manage your licenses across your different entities, allowing you to also create license pools for each entity and letting that be something that's accounted for during the reconciliation process so that the system is only reconciling or honoring what you've listed out from a consumption rule standpoint. And then lastly, let's take a look at our reclamation rules. So now, when it comes to our reclamation rules, let's say for Adobe Illustrator, we're now able to specify things like the assignment group tied to the reclamation, or even the different conditions that we also need to consider when it comes to going through and tagging things as removal candidates. All flexibility that we didn't offer before, and now this will let you treat things again more uniquely in terms of the cases where you want to remove candidates and allow you to have that flexibility. So all in all, these 2 things are helping reduce the headache it takes to, one, determine where you can better manage your different entities and the license pools associated, and also from a reclamation standpoint, removal candidate standpoint, providing you more flexibility on when you actually want to tag things as something for you to go out and reclaim. Hopefully you guys all saw some value from these 2 features, and please continue to check out the features that I've also released in Vancouver. Again, my name is Pedro Romero, and it was my pleasure to walk you through our optimizations for our consumption rules and optimizations for our reclamation rules. Thank you so much.